Telepon Felix dulu. Pastikan. Telepon, jangan WA. Tes, tes. Cek, cek. Good morning. Hi, Jonas. Sorry, this is Susan speaking. Uh, can you kindly add Ayo before your name? Good morning. Good morning. Can you all hear me? Uh, okay. Uh, so due to some technicalities, the MCs are still waiting. So because we have schedule a very tight schedule. Let me start today's ASEAN week with a short introduction. So welcome everyone. Uh, we have 89 participants and more will come. And we have with us today young speakers from ASEAN Youth Organization. We have Mo, we have Gary, we have Farhan, and we have, can we, Dum Dum. Is it okay to call you Dum Dum uh, or Jonas? Hello?
Better if you call me Jonas. Thank you.
Okay, better. Sorry. Yes, we have Jonas. They will be sharing with us their experience in the international ASEAN Youth Organization, sharing the success stories and the feelings and all the aspirations. And this conversation will be hosted by our very own Herto Bastian Abul. Hi, Herto. Hello, Herto.
Hi, ma'am.
Uh-huh. I think, but before we start, as our tradition, the so-called tradition, we're going to open the session with a prayer uh, by Tere Siahaan. Can you lead us into prayer? We can also use bahasa Indonesia. It's okay. Okay, Tere. Thank you.
Let's pray together.
Okay, let's pray.
Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for gathering all of us today in this event, the day 2 of Asian Week. May you bestow your guidance and blessings on this event so that we can enjoy and appreciate its significance in our lives. Bless everyone present today that each may be able to share what we have for your glory and honor. Grant good health, safety, and peace to us always. May the various activities about this event be a success through your intervention. We ask all of this in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Hello, Herto. Yeah, we're going to start now. I will give it to Herto to start the dialogue. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am Susan, our
Sorry.
dear Dean of Faculty of Letters, Universitas Kristen Indonesia. Hello, everyone. Good morning. How are you today? It's very early for some people, right? Including me myself. But hey, we're in ASEAN Week, awakening and connecting our global identities, right? And today we are so excited because we're not alone. We have some friends joining us from overseas. Uh, we have, like Ma'am Susan has introduced earlier, that we have here Jonas from the Philippines, and we also have Gary Fung from Singapore, and we have Mu Pomo, or we can simply call her Mo, from Myanmar, and also our dear friend from Indonesia, Muhammad Farhan Dirhami, right? So I think we can start by first give a little bit introduction about them. I'm pretty sure that the committee has prepared some kind of what is it? The presentation, right? Yes, here it is. Uh, the first one here we have Gary Fung. Yeah, Gary is currently working in Singapore as an electrical engineer and a volunteer with the ASEAN Youth Organization, managing IOS partnerships and relations with public institutions. And he graduated in 2019 from the National University in Singapore. He brings with him past experiences working in the public, private, and social sectors, as well as overseas volunteering experiences to the Philippines and Nepal. So he's been to Nepal too. And next we have got Mumo. She is a medical student studying at the University of Medicine 1. I hope I'm not mistaken mentioning this. In Myanmar. And she recently graduated from Narrabundah College, Australia, while working at UN Youth Australia and Live Below the Line campaign. Currently, she's working as a partner officer for ASEAN Youth Organization. Next, yep, we've got Jonas Mary Doom Doom, and he is a co-host and head of research for the Sustainable podcast. I'm sure he will talk more about this also later. The first podcast in the Philippines that focuses on issues on sustainable development. He's also an associate consultant for sustainability on GCSS Inc. and resident scientist for a refilling startup Salim PH, Philippine, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he graduated with a degree of Master of Science Renewable Energy and Resource Management at the University of South Wales in the UK in 2017. He used to live in the Sumatran oil fields of Riau, Indonesia from 1999 to 2003 and have been to Indonesia. Okay, I'm sure he's pretty familiar with us Indonesian. And he's also been to Laos, PDR, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. And in 2016, he was part of the Philippine delegation to the third ASEAN quiz in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He always has a stock of Indomie. Okay, this is cool. In his home in Makati City, Philippines, and occasionally enjoy char kway teow, pad thai, and rendang. And Muhammad Farhan Dirhami. He is a project manager in Dynamic Indonesia. He's also a budget analyst, ASEAN Australia Strategic Youth Partnership. He's also an ambassador for ASEAN Youth Organization, and he's one of alumni at MCW Global's Young Leaders Access Program Student Exchange to the United States of America. So let's give a big virtual applause for our speakers this morning. Yeah. And for today, my name is Herto Bastian Abul, and I am the moderator for, let's say, for 1.5 hours that we've got this morning. And today is the first day. We still have another day, which is on Thursday. We have more speakers there, and then I'm sure that they will share more interesting things that they've done when it comes to participating on involving in global community. So they are here today, ladies and gentlemen, our dear friends, to share with us what they have accomplished and how it was or how it is their involvement in international world, in international community, especially like in ASEAN. And hopefully that can be inspiration for us to do more with everything that we have. For these four speakers that we have today, we have 40 minutes for them for like sharing with us everything that they have. Each will get 10 minutes. We'll start. I think we will start with uh, Mo. Is that okay, Mo? Can you go first?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Time is yours.
Um, okay. So I actually haven't prepared a presentation for this, but I'll just, share my experiences. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you all here. My name is Mupo Mo, and I'm a first-year medical student studying at the University of Medicine 1 here in Myanmar. As Herdo said before, I also recently graduated from Narrabundah College, which is in Australia. And so to begin with, I actually began volunteering when I was around 14 or 15, so around 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm currently 18 now, but it's been an amazing journey throughout all these years. So the reason why I love volunteering so much is because you get to meet a lot of all these, like-minded young people, and you get to learn from these people and, from different cultural backgrounds, especially as young people from ASEAN like us, we already have that advantage of being a young person from an ASEAN country and also being able to go to other countries to work there as well. So, there's kind of no laws and gaining new knowledge and learning about other people's countries as well. So, I don't know if you guys also went through this, but when I started volunteering, I actually had to overcome this issue of public speaking and social anxiety. But getting I so what I did was I joined public speaking clubs, and I applied for organizations such as ASEAN Youth Organization, and there's no loss to it, and I still don't regret applying to these, because even though I had to have these interviews and all these public speaking moments, it's still like me getting out of my comfort zone, and which helps me grow as a person as well. I'm here right now talking to all of you, and this is probably my first time as a guest speaker as well. So this will hopefully help me grow in the future as well. So the first volunteering experience that I did when I was, around 14, 15 was working at the UN Youth Australia. So when I was working there, the next day I got an email saying that I have to go into the Australian Parliament to meet with an Australian Shadow Minister, Elizabeth Kicker. So I went to the Australian Parliament House, and I met up with Elizabeth, and going there actually meant so much to me, because when I was there, I was not only representing UN Youth Australia, but also I was representing my own college, and also I was also representing my own country, Myanmar, and also the young people. So being able to go there and talk with the minister has been, one big milestone for me. Even back then I was because I was like 15, I was kind of like a child. So I didn't exactly know how to talk to important people. But from that experience, I learned two big important life lessons. The first thing that I learned was that, I learned how to talk to important people. And even now, when I see important people now, big government officials, I think I'm able to talk to them, formally, and present myself nicely. And the second thing that I learned was that I learned how to raise my voice as a young person. And, with the issues that's going on around nowadays, even in 2020, there are a lot of factors that's been impacting us as young people. There are mental health issues, which is actually known to be the number one issue in Australia back in 2019. So there are issues like youth unemployment. There are, educational issues, because personally for me, Myanmar is still a developing country. So there's still it still needs some improvement, especially with the election period going on right now. So those are some of the things that I learned by going there. And I believe another thing that I also volunteered did, another work experience I did was volunteering to present at the ASEAN Australia Youth Forum, which is Australia Now. It's actually a competition for ASEAN students and also Australian students about the economics and the international relationships between ASEAN and Australia. And while going there, it was actually very spontaneous for me, because I thought that when I went to the forum, I was just supposed to represent my college and represent, young people. However, one thing that I didn't really expect was that the Secretary of Australia, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, Frances Adamson, will also be there. So when she walked in the room, I was like so, surprised and scared. So that was like one of the biggest spontaneous moments of my life. However, I knew that after the forum, I knew that when she leaves the room and I didn't get to introduce myself to her, I know that I will regret it. So after the forum, I actually went up to her and I said hi. And even though it wasn't like a proper meeting, it was like a chit chat between the importance of ASEAN Australia youth partnerships and all these collaborations, which is important for us as young people as well. So it's been an amazing journey trying to be able to talk to her and all that. So yeah, that's been amazing. And also another thing, same there. I also volunteered at Floria, which is the biggest flower festival in Australia. People from all over Australia and other countries even come to Canberra, which Floria was held in, and there I was volunteering. However, another spontaneous moment was that I met up with Kiki K, the CEO of Kiki K, Christina Carlson. And I love her stationery. I don't know if you guys know or heard of Kiki K, but she's kind of like a big thing in Australia. And I saw her, and as usual, me being me, I went up to her and introduced myself. And I think we may have bonded a little bit because she gave me her free planner for free, even though she was supposed to be selling it at Floriat. So, just all these spontaneous moments, it can be miracles or it can be just an average volunteering experience. But one thing that you will never regret is volunteering at these different events and running into all these people. So, you know, or you can do local events even, if in your own country. I'm sure that Indonesia has a lot of all these, um, organizations and youth events all around, because I know that there's ASEAN Youth Forum, ASEAN Youth Organization, and they're all based in Indonesia. So for you guys, as members of Indonesia and ASEAN, you guys already have this advantage of, being able to participate in all these global or local organizations. And I think that's a really great advantage as well. So, even for me now in COVID-19, I want to be able to contribute back to my community. So I've been working on a blood donation campaign with my seniors and coworkers in Myanmar. And we are trying to, promote safe blood donors to donate safely during COVID-19 as well. So, these are just a few of my experiences and examples that I love doing so much. And, even now, I truly enjoy working with my team at ASEAN Youth Organization, because from these experiences, I grow. And, these things shape me into a truly different person that has been, hiding throughout all my life. Because the person that I am today is not the same as the person that I was a few years ago or even yesterday, so everything has changed once you get out of your comfort zone and, just grow, I guess. And even for me, I study medicine, and actually I'm a first year this year. However, but I also volunteer in organizations that aren't related to medicine at all, like ASEAN Youth Organization, it's not related to medicine at all. But this helps me gain a whole new perspective, in addition to my already existing point of views, such as the perspective of a young person, of a medical student, of a member of ASEAN, and also of a feminist. So I genuinely support volunteering in different events, just to find your passion if you haven't found one. And, don't be scared. It's always an amazing opportunity. And if you don't do it, you're going to regret it eventually, because every type of volunteering experience, it will contribute to your career anytime. Because, I know Gary's an engineer, and I'm from medical school, so everyone here are from different backgrounds. However, we can all contribute back to our ASEAN community as well. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, let's once again give a big virtual applause for Mumo. Beautiful presentation. I think me myself, I think it was very inspirational and very nice experiences that you have up until now. I mean, like you started at 13, right? 13 years old.
About 14, yeah.
About 14. Okay. And I like what you said, and you mentioned about growing in terms of you coming out from your comfort zone, and then reshaping you to become who you are now, and how you got involved in so many activities. You met a lot of important people, and also I'm sure that they have become your inspiration as well. One thing that I want to ask you while we still have time here for your session, how do you manage, like between your, volunteering in those kind of activities and, like keeping up with your study, because you're studying medical, right? And then I know that that's not an easy field of study. So how do you deal with that?
Well, it's just like a matter of time management. You just gotta manage your time nicely. I think everyone knows that. When I think most of young people here are students as well. So we all want to volunteer, but also we also have studying. So it's like you gotta juggle two things at once. But if you want to grow, you just gotta do it. If you're stressed right now, it's just for this time being. However, you won't regret it in the future. And I think that's my motivation to do it. Because personally for me, when I become a surgeon or something, I'm hoping to look back and reflect on these experiences and to grow better as a surgeon. Because, when I become a doctor, I think that I have to be willing to, wake up or get up at any time of the night to go save a life. I can't just say like, 5 minutes more or something like that. So, I think these experiences and practices is already training me to becoming a better person as well as a better surgeon for my future career. So, if you have passion, I just say, just go for it. Just apply for everything. And yeah,
Wow. So I'm sure you found a lot of fun in doing those things, right?
yeah, it's been very nice.
Okay, nice. And I think that's from Mo, a very nice presentation, wonderful. And I will translate a little bit, I think. Is that okay, Ma'am Suzanne, that I need to translate it to Bahasa Indonesia? Is that what we're doing here, or do we need to proceed?
No need, no need.
No
So that
need. Okay.
they will be pushed to understand English and
Okay.
grow. Thank you.
You- Thank you. You saved me then. All right, dear friends. I don't know why I kept calling you guys ladies and gentlemen, but I'm sure that some lecturers are joining us today. Next, we have Gary, and he is from Singapore, and I am sure that I introduced him also. So, Gary, are you there with us?
Hi. Yep.
Okay, it's your
Okay.
turn.
Okay. So for my sharing, I'll be talking in three-pronged approach. So it will be the social sector, my public experience, as well as the private experience. So in terms of my social sector, I actually started volunteering when I was a kid as well, similar to Mo. And the first big breakthrough in terms of my social experience is traveling overseas for my volunteering experience in Nepal. So what we did there was actually, it was a sort of a leadership training come social work event where we trekked up to the mountain and reached a rural village, and we tried to bring in what we have in to make an impact in the location. So as you know, in the mountains, accessibility to amenities, to utilities is low. So the school itself is actually quite not that greatly developed. And what we did was we actually planned what we want to do and what impact we want to bring over there. And the funny thing is, when I was traveling up the mountain to that school, yeah, I thought that, oh, why would people want to live in this kind of condition? It's so harsh. The weather is bad, and even they might not even be able to take a bath daily, which what most people in other regions, especially in Singapore, are able to accomplish. So the thing that I took away from that is being in a new setting, new environment, completely different from what you're used to, actually brings new perspective to how you think and what does your usual day-to-day thing matters to you. And so in personally, I find that this new way of thinking is unconventional in my home country, because normally people will think that the less you have, the less stuff there are that makes you happy. For example, we might be focusing on the newest, let's say the new PlayStation, or maybe the new DS with the new games that we are all used to. All these are actually not that relevant in Nepal, because for them, their focus was actually more on survival. And from that perspective, they're actually able to find things that makes them happy. Of course, if they will be able to experience all the wealth of a nation that can bring, they will also be happy as well. But this doesn't mean that without these things, we can't make do with what we have to maximize our resources. So this is actually one of the big takeaways from volunteering. And subsequently, I also traveled to Philippines to embark on a similar expedition with my junior college when I was in about 17 years old. Yep. So the similarly, it's also a school, but this time it's also somewhere rural, because I was banking on my previous experience in Nepal. So the Philippine culture is actually quite different as well. And in terms of, I'm comparing Singapore and Philippines. So people there are generally much more willing to say hello to you on the streets, approach to you, and is very friendly. And I'm pretty sure most of you know that they are actually great singers, and their culture is great as well. And they know how to enjoy and how to exhibit their expressions in their songs and in their things, which is quite a different setting, because schools in Singapore usually focus heavily on your curriculum, and usually the CCAs, which is like your co-curricular activities, are more tailored towards getting into the school that you want. And the takeaway from this was also how different culture and different countries focus on different things. So in Philippines, I would generally say that the people are able to express their emotions more, and which might lead to better social behaviors, and more they're not so cooped up like what I've noticed in Singapore. Yeah. So professionally, I've interned previously in the private sector and currently in the public sector. So in my internships, I was also exposed to foreigners in terms of my day-to-day business. So I will take an example for my internship in Changi Airport. So it's an international airport in Singapore, and we actually have systems from all over the world. So the airfield systems that we have right now in Changi Airport was by Honeywell, which is a UK European Western company, and some systems are actually coming from India and the rest of the world. So the great thing about this is, because it's such an international stage, my maintenance company people are actually mostly from Myanmar. So I also have to learn how to interact with them, as well as in the office, I'll be interacting with European people. And in the office locally, I'll be talking to Singaporeans and some Malaysians, etc. So each of them bring different things to the table, because the way of they are brought up and the way that their institution taught them. And you can be quite it's quite interesting to know that even in the same discipline, for example, I'm in electrical engineering, they are actually taught different things, and the way that they are taught is different. So when you're solving problems, if you're only working in Singapore team, in your own host country, everyone will think in a similar fashion, and there might be some problems that you won't be able to solve based on your own local understanding. However, when you bring it to international stage, you're actually bringing different ingredients into the pot, and actually this will actually help you to, might even come up with a very great solution to solve the issues that you can't solve locally. And so this is my private sector, and moving towards my public sector. So right now I'm actually in Singapore's transport authority. I'm working on a MRT power supply project. So as you know, train technology mostly are stemmed from, in the past, the Japanese are the best exports of this product. But recently, China has also been growing well in terms of this area. And the railway industry is booming, and as well, and I'm pretty sure you guys also know that Jakarta had their first north-south line about 19 months ago. Yeah. So all these systems are actually not in-house developed, and it has to be brought over overseas. And Singapore actually faced much difficulty in the past when we are trying to integrate systems from Europe, I think Europe, India, as well as software from Japan. Yeah. So the three systems that communicate together brought a lot of difficulties, because we can't understand how each culture work efficiently. So with this globalized age, and this has been already about 10, 20 years, I'm pretty sure that right now, if we were to do this integration, we will be much more well equipped, because most of the people right now are able to understand the importance of globalization and perhaps already went through it. And in this day and age, when talking about globalization, we have to address the elephant in the room. So how does COVID-19 affect the globalized market? And what does that mean for each and every of the undergraduates here? So if you are following the news recently about all this COVID-19, how does the country respond? You realize that most countries are taking a protectionist approach. So they're actually trying to pull away from the global stage. and consolidate their resources to recover. So this makes sense because the government's key stakeholders is still its own people. So in doing so, they'll be able to ensure that they can maximize their resources to strengthen their own infrastructure, their own market, their own businesses, so that they will survive when they're coming out. However, what does this mean for the young people like us? So if the leaders are now trying to take this approach, the future global stage might be different from what we are very used to for the past 10 years or so. And this will require us to actually understand what is change, what are the changes, what are the trends, and we have to reinvent ourselves, even different from the way that globalization was in pre-COVID-19. We have to increasingly adopt an agile mindset and take cross-discipline approaches, because the problems of today in the global economy when we are working will be slightly different from what we are used to, because technologies are increasing faster and faster. And in this at this juncture, I think I would bring up a report that I recently read about that KPMG published. So they actually published a white paper on the importance to replan, reevaluate, and reimagine how you should contribute in the post-COVID-19 economy. So post-COVID-19, there will be a lot of changes and there will be a lot of uncertainty. And this will even drive more people away from exposing themselves to the global stage, because the pre-COVID-19 global stage is already quite daunting to some of us if you're not willing to take a step out of our comfort zone. What more is the post-COVID-19 economy, where we don't even know what is going to happen. For example, the aviation industry was said to recover by 2024, but there are no previous instances where you can actually say confidently that 2024 will be the year that it will recover. It's similar to the economic depressions previously. There might be some sectors that will never recover and hit a new low. So moving forward, the important thing to keep in mind is be open and be receptive of different changes, especially when you go in a different culture and you are not used to it. Understand the reason why they're doing it, and maybe understand why this thing is a predominant thing in that country. And from there, you can actually identify the gaps or maybe even the emerging opportunities for you to venture out and make your mark in the global stage. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gary. Nice and wonderful presentation, sharing about the things that you've done so far. And I really like what you said. If I could say, from all the things that you explained to us or you shared with us, you focused more on the people, like from the social sectors, public sectors, or professional sectors that you mentioned. My point of view is that you see the people, you see how they lead their lives, and then you get something from that, and that becomes your mind changing, and giving you a new perspective, like you mentioned about going to the Philippines, and then you interact with people from Myanmar. Even when it comes to work, you also work with Indian people from India and other countries, and then it's like maybe like Mo also explained before, it's reshaping you into who you are now. And then also you're telling us about the importance of our role in this COVID-19 situation now. And I'm sure that our friends today get a lot of inspiration from everything that you have shared with us. So if you guys have any questions, you can prepare now, like you can ask Mo or Gary. Meanwhile, we will move on to our friend. And now it's, let's call Farhan. Are you with us?
Yep.
Okay, it's your turn, man.
Okay, is it audible? Is my voice audible?
Yes, you're audible, loud and clear.
Okay, cool. So I got my presentation here. So let me just open my presentation. Wait, please. it? Where is it? Okay, can you guys see the screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, guys, I think we need to have refreshment here.
Ah,
um, yeah, after 30 minutes of hearing my awesome people from ASEAN Youth Organization about their experiences, and yeah, like we have to be engaged in the community in our society, and then maybe I would like to know, where do you guys come from right now? So maybe you guys can like comment your where do you live right now? Okay, so I would
in
like to
the chat
know.
box. Can you put it?
Yeah, you can put on your chat box, and then you can maybe write your name and also where do you live right now. So I will know the questions to cover. Okay, from Jakarta, from Bali. Jakarta, Bekasi Timur. Wow, it's so far, yeah. Just kidding. And then thank you, Omega. Okay, Adventius from Jakarta, Rosa from Bali, Grace from Medan, Monica from Jakarta, Gaby from Bekasi Barat, Losevin from Jakarta Selatan. Okay, oh Zitang from Singapore, Jati Makmur, Philippines, Papua. Wow, thank you, Finakat. Esther from Depok, Novalin from Papua Barat, Kalimantan Timur, Bogor, Toraja. Wow, awesome, awesome. Okay, from Cibubur full of stuff. Okay, thank you guys. So it is, you know, um, showed us in the uncertain situation like this that we should adapt with the COVID-19 situation. We have to, sit together and also act about something that we can do to overcome our community issues that is happening right now. So here I will be talking about active society. I will not be much talking about my experiences, but I will talk about active society. So active society, I will be talking about the top reasons why we no longer need heroes as our leader. But let me introduce myself. I'm Muhammad Farhan Dirhami. Currently, I'm working as a budget analyst at ASEAN Australia Strategic Youth Partnership. And also, I'm also the ambassador of ASEAN Youth Organization, while also the certified facilitator for 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and also KPK, anti-corruption agent. So here are the things that we will cover. There are 4 things. Why do we no longer need heroes? Who is the actor? How to adapt? And also what is social change? Yeah, okay, let's go to the first question, guys. Why do we no longer need heroes? So we all want to know what is actually the reason. So let me ask you something. Where do you usually find heroes? Maybe it's in films, right? Yeah, like Deadpool wear mask, and then Ultraman, and then Spider-Man. They are all heroes, and also maybe Iron Man. Yeah, they are all heroes. And then actually these heroes are not only in films, we also have that in our society. People call it heroes because they make some landmark acts, big actions, therefore it can transform the society from this condition to that condition. So that is actually that I would like to talk about. That I would like to tell you something that actually right now we no longer need heroes as our leader. Why? Why do we no longer need heroes as our leader? So actually, the superhero concept is not in line with the concept of leadership that we want to have in order to foster change in our communities. We don't only see superheroes in films, but also in the way we learn history. And I think that is very dangerous. We do not really feel connected to these big social leaders, and we feel like we don't have their power to foster change in our society. So let me give you an example. Like maybe right now, I don't feel that I'm capable enough to gather 250,000 people to Washington in order to foster some very landmark acts. I don't feel like I have Martin Luther King's power. Therefore, I rather conceived these social heroes as a community organizer. And when I dig up a little bit more into the history, I realized by myself that these people were actually not alone. They really built power in the community. So if we want to see change, we got to work together. So we need to act together as an engaged community. Like community organizers, they are trying to build power in the community. They need to become public. They need to showcase their plans, whatever, if they are capable to do so. They always are there in the public. It makes it. I think it makes a lot more sense now to be the real leader or the real effective follower in our society. So if I would like to ask, who is actually the actor here? Who would like to be the effective follower, to be the effective leader? Who is the actor? So who is the actor? The actor is actually you. You are the actor who is responsible and also must take actions for our community issues. So maybe I can define you as the individuals who are responsible for uniting people to work together to solve community issues and make this world a better place. So if I'd like to ask you another question here. So how to adapt as today's leader? So as we know that things are so uncertain in today's world. And then the worst thing is that many people come up with a solution that the problems never exist, right? So I would like to tell you a little bit story of myself when I was in 2019, when we tried to address environmental problems in Situ Gede village in Indonesia. It's in Bogor. And then it's the place where people threw sacks of garbage into the river irresponsibly. And then we started to take our initiative to talk with the local people. And also we are trying to know what are important and then what are not important for them. We are living together with them and also observe their day-to-day activities and gathering data and also the information. So basically, we have to know about the problem first before we got into the solution. So there are 3 simple steps that you can do here. Is the first that you have to assess, just like what I did. You have to interview, you talk to them, you live with them, you feel them, and then you design the things that you think it can solve the problem. So you design if this can solve this problem or not, and then what works and what doesn't work. And also you can start to build on that and execute it. So actually there are only 3 things, 3 simple steps. So what is social change, if we are asking? So we are working together as citizens, as effective followers, as effective leaders, as an engaged community to make a social change. So actually, social change is a social interaction where the communities are engaged and also empowered with the sense of belonging as a community. So maybe you are not a superhero, but you are a real person who can truly transform our society. So I think that is all from me. Thank you. So we just have to be at least a very good. Yeah, if we cannot be a effective leader, at least we can be an effective follower to work as an engaged community. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Yes. That's awesome, Farhan. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's also a beautiful explanation about how to be effective as both as follower and also if we become a leader as well, right?
Exactly.
And then even if we're not part of Avenger, we can still be right.
Exactly.
That's what I got.
Nice
Well, okay.
conclusion.
That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, friends, if you have any questions, like I said before, if you want to ask questions to Mo, Gary, or Farhan for their presentation, you can just type or prepare right now, and then you can just type and put that on that chat in the chat room, and then we will ask that question. We will read the questions and then ask them to our dear speakers. Last but not least, we have Jonas from the Philippines. Are you there with us, Jonas?
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. I'm good. Let me just get my video up. Oh,
Okay,
there you go.
you're ready to
Good.
share your story with us?
Sure, sure. Good morning, everyone. My name's Jonas. I'm from the Philippines, and well, similar to my earlier colleagues, my colleagues earlier, sorry, I did not get to prepare a presentation, but I'd like to share my experiences in terms of uh, the field of sustainability and ASEAN. And I've been right now I'm doing corporate and environmental sustainability. So it's more of environment and climate change impacts and social impacts. And I do this through two of my I guess jobs. My main job is actually through corporate sustainability consulting for a company called GCSS, and it's a company that helps large scale companies that are required to disclose their not what we call non-financial initiatives to talk about them and see how they are either improving society or trying to improve the society if they have like negative impacts. And the other one is through this podcast called Sustainer Rumble. And the Sustainer Rumble is, as what was described by our host, is the first ever podcast in the Philippines that talk about sustainable development. And we're not talking about, if you're familiar with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, we're not talking about those things. We're talking about issues that underlie the sustainable development issue. So why is it important that we need to talk about it? In the context of COVID-19, we've learned that the current system that we have uh, broke down completely. And a lot of people were forced to adapt quickly to do whatever it takes to save people's lives through COVID, but also balance it out in terms of the economy. And this is where sustainability plays a role because there there is a balance that we need to do between three things. Um, and it's what we call the triple bottom line, and it's called people, planet, and profit. So for the world to become better, and for ASEAN actually to become better, we need to balance those three needs. It's very difficult if you think about it because some people will say, "Oh, we need more money," or "We need to earn more." But sometimes when we do earn more, there are cases where you stumble upon uh, the other two. You know, the surroundings will be affected by the things that you do actually. So if you just focus on one thing, the other two may not be benefiting from that. And as people of ASEAN, if you look at it in a cultural perspective, um, and this is what I've learned actually through my work and through the podcast, that if we look into the past, we look at traditional practices, we look at ways that our ancestors have grown our society. Um, it, yeah, it provides like unique perspectives and unique answers to a lot of problems right now. So, in the case of Indonesia, some of if I recall, Jakarta for one has a big issue on um, that it's sinking. And the fun thing about, I mean, the interesting thing about it is that it could be mitigated. Um, if if um, if the local population would would think about ways to reduce their water consumption using groundwater or recycle or reuse. It's something that could help stop the sinking. Or if they go with more sustainable architectural practices, that could be a way to improve the city's um, uh, s- you know style and way of life, basically. In the Philippines, we have a similar problem because there is a projection that in 2050, uh, the capital city Manila will sink literally because we would, sea level rise will increase, and a lot of the a lot of the structures here in Manila are actually located below sea level, so it's a challenge. And a lot of people here have actually found ways to mitigate that by being active in NGOs that help people improve their housing, improve their energy efficiency, reduce carbon impacts, and that's something that I do as well through my other advocacies. Now, if you think that those two those two problems are relevant to just Indonesia and the Philippines, no, it's not. It's actually relevant throughout Southeast Asia. Even major cities like Bangkok will sink in 2050, and in Ho Chi Minh will also have that similar problem. So, as people of ASEAN, we need to think of ways to come together actually and solve these common problems. And one way we could do this is sharing our information and resources, sharing how how our cultures could help solve these problems. And I believe that Southeast Asia, despite its I guess vast array of culture and and traditions, we share a common bond that the 10 countries of ASEAN plus Timor Leste, uh, there are things that we really enjoy, and we could start with that, bond to that, go together with that. And I've seen this also in my travels. And it's funny because I used to live in an oil field in Sumatra, and I used to see the alternative, or the opposite of a sustainable community. But the people there, in the mountains of Rio Province, are also yearning for um, a better life. And what is a better life? Hopefully, we through environmental and social sustainability. I've seen this as well, that people are now progressing towards better practices. I'm guessing Singapore and Thailand are leading the way when it comes to that. The ASEAN youth there are very, very active when it comes to these things. In the Philippines, we're starting to gear up. Indonesia is also starting to gear up, and that's a great thing for us to do. And hopefully, we can all achieve uh, a better Southeast Asia in terms of our environment and for our. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a wonderful presentation. Even though most of you guys say that you guys didn't prepare any presentation, but you guys delivered it very well. So kudos to you guys, and especially to Jonas. Just recently, what you shared with us, I liked how you mentioned about one thing here, that sometimes when you have more, people can stumble upon things that they have more. And then I like the point that you share here, that as ASEAN, as people, as like global community, especially in Southeast Asian, we should come together and share information. I think that is actually the essence of having global community, especially ASEAN, that you need to keep update your friends, your family, I mean like ASEAN family, on what's happening in your country, and then see and reflect on what other countries can do, because we have kind of familiar way of life here in ASEAN regarding those issues like environmental issues. And I think I was also interested in sustain rumble, right? Sustain rumble podcast. Is that accessible on Spotify or something
Yes,
like that? Okay, so
it's accessible through Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just type at Sustain Rumble.
okay, so if you guys want to know more about that, maybe you guys can go to Apple Music or Spotify and then listen to this Sustain Rumble. So I think we've got four speakers sharing their information. We've got Mo in the first place. She shared a lot of inspirational activities that she has done even since the age of 14. She's been like involving, and then she's changed. She's come out of her comfort zone. She explained to us that she dealt with public speaking, public anxiety, and then she had to uh, really push herself to be better in public speaking. And she's also like trying to maintain her schedule as medical student, and also participating in various uh, activities, volunteering in international level. And also we've got Gary. He also talked about how he saw people in every situation that he was doing in social sectors, public sectors, and professional sectors. He worked with many people from the Philippines, Myanmar, India, and then even in he also shared his some point of view about dealing with COVID-19, and then that helped him grow better as person. And then also we've got Farhan too, sharing with us about how it is that everyone is actually a leader and everyone can be a hero without being kind of superhero that we've known in our daily life, or we don't have to be like political leader or something like that. And then also got Jonas also shared about the importance of sharing as global community and something like that. So now we've got 30 minutes for a question and answer session. Let's check on chat room. We've got one question already. Hello, my name is Gaby from Universitas Kristen Indonesia, and I would like to ask Miss Mo a question. So your sharing session focuses on us pushing ourselves to network and take as many chances on volunteering as possible. But even you had to take public speaking classes in the beginning to overcome anxiety. Where did the motivation to overcome that anxiety come from? I think. Wait a minute. I think. Oh, where did the motivation? Where did the motivation to overcome that anxiety come from? Okay, are you still with us, Mo?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yes.
I think you
So
saw that also in chat room, right?
yeah, I was reading
Okay,
it while you were
go
reading it.
ahead.
So thank you, Gabby, for the question. It's such an amazing question because, as young people, I believe that, sorry, okay, I'll continue. So because as young people, we, overcome some sort of issues during our teenage years as well. For the public speaking, with questions regarding public speaking, I think it's because of my passion that drove me into doing all these things. Because it's kind of like more or less about my passion being able to overwhelm my anxiety and all these issues that I had to overcome. Because without being driven to do all these things, then I know that I wouldn't be here speaking to all of you, because I would just be constantly overthinking about whether or not I will be able to do it, or it's a cruel thing that we had to go through. So I guess it's just get out of your comfort zone. And if you want practice, do a lot of public speaking clubs and there's a lot, especially during, with the advancing technology now. And during COVID-19, there's a lot of, Facebook pages that you can search up about public speaking opportunities and all that. So, it's just practice, I guess. Yeah.
And practice makes you perfect, right?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. We've got Esther next. Esther Meilani from Universitas Kristen Indonesia too. I would like to ask one question for Mrs. Mumo. According to your experience, it's really awesome. What simple thing we can have since early age, I assume, about leadership, like the good habit? That is my question. What can we, what simple thing that we can have since very young when it comes to leadership?
So to be quite honest with you all, I didn't exactly have a purpose. I only had my passion. And the only thing that I knew when I started volunteering was that I wanted to contribute back to my community and, represent my own country. Because when I started volunteering, I was actually in Australia. I just moved there. So, I was kind of far away from my home country. However, that didn't exactly stop me from contributing back to my Australian community and my college as well. So talking about leadership, I guess, over time, you overcome all these you gain a lot more experience about leadership, and you work in a team that is also going towards the same goal. So when you're working with other people who has like-minded thoughts and all these opportunities, like for ASEAN Youth Organization, we're all working towards the same goal to build a better place for young people, internationally, globally, for other people in different ASEAN countries. So while you volunteer and gain new experiences, you also interact with and build a deeper connection with your coworkers and peers. And from that, you can lead in return to, anything, basically. You can just give back and share your knowledge. Because my main aim by volunteering in Australian organizations and stuff is to be able to share my knowledge to the young people in Myanmar. Because as you all know, Myanmar is still a developing country. So coming from a developing country, I believe that, as a young person, we all need to be globally aware of all the issues, like, the election in the US, we need to be globally aware for that as well, because it overwhelms us, you know. So it's just more or less about being passionate and learning as you go. Yeah.
Are you in Myanmar right now?
Yes, I am. I just moved back here. Yeah.
You just moved back. Okay. And then you finished your school as well.
Yeah, but I'm starting university this
Okay.
year. Yeah.
Awesome. And what about okay, I think I have a question to you. Since you mentioned about, like being in this global community, and then you have you like to work with, like-minded people. I think that's what you mentioned before, that to participate in global community because you think that you can meet a lot of like-minded people. So did you ever, in your participation in this global events or in this global community, meet with those who have different, don't have a share, they don't share the same value with you, or they don't have the same perspective? And how did you try to, like deal with that, or try to cope with such things so that your communication become better?
I actually like that question because I was just thinking about it last night. Because, working in a global organization and stuff meant that we're all in this together. We are being united. And the same, when I join an organization, I obviously do research first. And then the reason why I joined this organization is because their goals and their aims and purpose match my goals and dreams for our community. And while doing all these, volunteering experiences, I actually met a guy at one of my, forums, conferences. And what he said was, and I quote, he said, "I want to be able to change the education system." And I didn't quite like that because he mentioned the pronoun I instead of we. Because without a team, you cannot do something alone. To produce a fundamental, the base is not it when you're just saying I. That's kind of, selfish if you actually think about it, because you can't do anything alone. That's why I always, join all these amazing organizations, because we're all working towards a brighter future for other, the next generation, because we're the next generation. So we have to empower one another and stay united. So when you see someone, who's like the guy that I mentioned, you just gotta not care, I guess. Yeah.
That's like the simple and coolest way, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. I also have, while waiting for others to send more questions, and I really encourage you guys to ask more questions, since we still have these great people here with us. And you can ask as many questions as possible, even questions that didn't, I mean, like, not part of their presentation. So you can just ask, and I'm sure that they are here to inspire, to help us, and then to give answers to questions that we have. Hopefully, we can pull that off nicely. I'm going to ask Gary, since he mentioned about that he met people from the Philippines and also Myanmar and also from India, and I just wonder if, have you met Indonesian? I mean, like, when it comes to work, and what's your impression about Indonesian? Because sometimes students like this type of questions, like, what do you think of Indonesian people, or when it comes to work field or like professionalism, what do you think about Indonesian?
Okay, so my experience with Indonesian people would be limited to my university. Okay, not really just like the coursework, project work per se, but because some of the co-curricular activities that I did in NUS, that we have Indonesian members, and I think that what they bring is quite a unique way of doing things as well. Because my personal opinion of them is some of them came over with a scholarship right out of high school. So actually, there's a bit of an age gap. So in Singapore, we actually go through junior college about 18 years old, and we proceed to 2 years in the army for guys. Yep. So by the time I got into university, I was already about 2021. Yep. So I was interacting with this Indonesian teenager, so about 16 years old, and it's a bit interesting the way that the Indonesians carry their lives is a bit different from Singapore. So for him as well, he has to acclimatize to our different ways of speaking. Because in Singapore, we actually much more cultural than the rest of ASEAN. So we actually mix in some Chinese words, Mandarin or Hokkien, and I think they actually enjoyed learning how to speak Singlish in Singapore. Yes. Of course, this only happens when we have different people from different countries coming to the university, and I think what Indonesians youths that are not experiencing this in an overseas country can do is, like I said, find an overseas organization, for example, AYO, and not only limited to us. There's also many other ASEAN focused groups that strives to make an impact in ASEAN and as well as the rest of the world. So look for those opportunities, keep an open mind. Some of them might be time consuming. So for example, volunteering if ASEAN takes a substantial amount of time as well. And like what Mo said, we have to really prioritize and find time, and with the correct purpose, you actually realize that this time spent is worth it. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we've got Limtila Kirmila from Faculty of Law in Riau University. Wow. Hello, Riau. Apa kabar? Glad to be here. Thank you for the explanation. I want to ask, from the explanations and experiences that you have conveyed, I see that most of IO's actions are aimed at human life. What is IO's view of current environmental issues? Thank you. Since this is talking about environmental issue, maybe Jonas can go first.
Yeah, well, hold on. Let me just get my video on. Yeah, I read that question earlier, and it's a very, very good question. Um, I can give you two perspectives. One in terms of ASEAN in governments, and then we'll go with the ASEAN youth second. So in terms of ASEAN, the governments, the agencies, and international organizations. So we are supposedly supporting all the plans and objectives of the Paris Climate Agreement in aligning with its goal of reducing global temperatures to, or limiting global temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And this year is the year where all ASEAN countries are actually or are supposed to report on new targets, because some of them may not be achievable by a certain time frame. Sometimes it's in 2050, sometimes it's 2030. Uh, some There are some goals that may be too ambitious, and there are some goals that are, because of technology considerations, need updating. Now, for ASEAN youth over the past how many years now are really supportive when it comes to environmental awareness. And there are lots of talks about biodiversity, lots of talks about the environment. Right now, we're gearing up to more talks about climate change impacts, because it's really the more important issue right now. And to think that ASEAN has the best or the largest biodiversity area in the world, actually. And it's centered around the Philippines, Brunei, Sabah and Sarawak, and Kalimantan province in Indonesia. It's important for us to uh, know what's in there, and important for us to preserve, conserve, and even expand the environment beyond that area of biological impact or biodiversity impact. And understand that, if we don't do anything now, our cities are going to run out of water. It's going to be, more difficult for us to adapt to physical impacts like storms, typhoons. I mean, like today, there's a news article that there was a flash flood in Singapore, and that's like a rare occurrence. So yeah, the youth should um, take a lead, or be aware of those things. And although you're not into the level of like policy people, but uh, if if we band together, those people will definitely hear us if we really just shout it loud and clear. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jonas. And I'm happy to see on in chat room because we've got more questions. We're running. Yes. Well, I think we still have time for these three questions from Vina Katmolama, and she's from Universitas Kristen Indonesia. I would like to ask us. Okay, this is the question. ASEAN countries has different culture and identities. What should youth ASEAN do to unite these differences? Um, Anyone wants to answer this? Maybe Gary or okay, Jonas again?
Yeah,
Or
just a quick answer.
okay.
Actually, the fun thing about ASEAN is that we have commonalities. Let's go with the most common. We all like rice. Admit
That's
it.
right.
We all like rice. We cook rice in different ways, in different styles, and we have different dishes that are actually related, but they're all based on rice. Start from there, and then you can see and discover that there are other important stuff that you could explore. And one notable thing is that, yeah, it was posted in the introduction that I keep a stash of Indomie. That's also true.
Up until
Filipinos
now,
love Indomie.
Indomie is tasty, and
Yeah,
I
Indomie is
think that's
tasty.
right. Let's focus more on something we have in common, like rice, for example. Thank you, Jonas. Maybe Gary or Mo or Farhan, you want to add something on this
So I'll go
question?
next. Yep. So in terms of identities and culture, like the question prompted, it is quite different. If you're looking at a similar model in the world, will be the EU, European Union. So they're actually much more closer in terms of culture as compared to ASEAN. So my take on this will be in what happens in Singapore, where we understand each and individual culture, their values, their language. Okay, maybe language we are an amalgamation of the few languages, and as well as what matters to the people in different country. So in AYO, we are promoting understanding of different cultures. So this should be the way forward for the ASEAN youths. You have to understand their culture. You might not necessarily maybe agree fully to what another country is doing, but there is a reason for their practice, and there's a reason why they adopt it so much. Yeah.
Inclusivity and understanding. I think
Yes.
I get that
Yeah.
from you. Okay. Maybe more, or Farhan, you want to add something on
Okay.
that?
I'd like
Your
to
take?
go. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I really agree with what Jonas and Gary had said. You know, Jonas has said that rices are a common thing, and it's true for all Asians, basically. And, you know, Gary said that, you know, it's more or less about our, you know, connections and, you know, common things and stuff. And I like to add on to that. So what's, you know, speaking in terms of all human beings, what do we have in common? We're designed to have emotions. You know, we're designed to have compassion towards one another. So you know, as young people who are actually attending this ASEAN Week and everything, we all have passion, which is why we're attending this. So, you know, we love to volunteer and we want to volunteer. So I guess that's one thing that we can look at in common terms. So, you know, the more we volunteer in different global organizations, the more we meet other people. And that, I guess that's one way of uniting each other. But also another way of seeing this is also attending a lot of conferences and participating in forums that is being held. You know, there's a lot of forums, especially during COVID-19, because we're just at home, you know. So I guess that's how I see a unity between ASEAN youth. Yeah.
Thank you, Mo. I see that the voluntary and participation, and also you're talking about compassion as
Yeah.
human beings here. That's what help us to unite. And Farhan, do you have your take on this?
Yeah, I do agree with the previous speakers from my friends, but I have a little bit different perspective here. So when we are talking about unity, we can talk about differences or similarities. There are two options, actually, the thing that you have to take. Do you want to see the similarities or do you want to see the differences? I think similarity is very good. It is a very good example if we want to, you know, like feel like we are like-minded person, just like Mo has stated before. Like we eat rice and then we love Indomie, for example. Yeah, we have so many similarities, right? But personally, for me, I love differences. I love, like different cultures, different beliefs, and everything can complement us to each other, especially for our different perspectives that we currently do not think about that. So I think differences is something good, and then so that we can have different perspectives of something that we currently do not have, or we can think that we have similarity as we are one ASEAN. So that's actually the thing for me. Thank you.
Maybe we can use our motto, Indonesian motto, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, unity in diversity. Okay,
Exactly.
yeah. And then we've got Farhan, Mr. Farhan. We've got Freddy Luis de Shehar from Universitas Kristen Indonesia. And this question goes to Farhan. He said that, for example, from the simple things, I would like to ask one question to Mr. Farhan. For example, from the simple things, introvert person sometimes having difficulty to express opinion in public. How can that person pursue the leadership as typical introvert? Maybe you can give a simple example, like a simple thing that an introvert can do to become,
Mhm.
to be a good leader.
Okay, thank you, Freddie. This is a very relevant question because sometimes it is hard for me to be confident in front of the people like this. Like, yeah, you have to voice your thoughts, you have to voice your ideas and stuff like that. Especially for introvert, it's sometimes even harder. I know that. Yeah. There is one thing that I realized as my experiences in public speaking and stuff is that people do not actually care about us. People do not really give a care about of what we are saying, of what or of how we look right now. The thing that they care is that you just have to perform. So that is actually something that is always in my mindset, that I do not really have to think about the things that are not happening. Like we sometimes just overthink too much about things. Therefore, it makes us super hard to say something in our mouth. So in our thoughts. So I think one simple example, one simple thing that you can do is that having the right mindset. You just have to perform and do not really care much things that makes you pessimist or not confident. So I think that's all. Thank you, Freddie. That's a good question.
Thank you, Farhan. So that's about mentality that you have to own to be a good leader. And I think borrowing what Mo said before, participation and involvement in so many events can help you ease the, what is it, public anxiety, or like for an introvert, the public anxiety for introvert. And moving on to next question, and it comes from Cibubur Love City. Wow. Okay, Cibubur Love City, and this is from Santosim. Santosim. Okay, and he's part of the committee talking about leadership. And if the heroes are ourselves, does leadership talk about self-idealism or about the crowd to become heroes for many people? I'm having okay. Wait. Does leadership talk about self-idealism? Anyone? Maybe let's focus on that. Does uh, does leadership talk about self-idealism? Anyone wants to answer that? Farhan, maybe you can go first.
Okay, maybe I would like to answer that. So maybe, oh wait, whose question is that? Sorry.
It's from Santos Simamora.
I'm sorry, Santo Simamora. So I think the question that Santo wants to ask is about: do we have to care about ourselves first, or do we have to care about the crowd first? Is that true? Yeah.
Come
Does
again?
leadership talk about self ideal? Does leadership talk about ourselves or about the crowd? Right? Talk about ourselves or talk about the crowd?
I think
So.
maybe, but
Uh,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Maybe I would like to answer the question. So I think leadership comes from ourselves first, come from our self idealism, like what you said. So I always agree with the statement that if we want to be a leader, we have to be led first. So before we be a good leader, we have to be a good follower first. By that, we can learn about how to be an effective leader. So that's actually what I've been doing, that I sometimes position myself as a effective follower, that I have to learn many things from many effective leaders, while I also position myself as a effective follower. So I think adaptation is something that is needed here. So when you are talking about which comes first, self-idealism about ourselves or about the people first, my answer is those things come at the same time. But sometimes, yeah, like the difference is actually just a little bit. When you have found something inside you, when you have already known about yourself, just a little bit about yourself, then you can put it into practice in the crowd, in the people, so that you will know better. Will you be able to suit to the people, or you have to adjust the things that you have right now? So I think it is a very good, like circle that you have to assess yourself. And also when you have assessed yourself, you put it to the other people. You bring back to the other people. So I think both of those things are at the circle. So you always go back and get back again like that. So I
Thank you,
think that's it.
Farhan. Next, we've got Ronel Olvido. He said, "Good afternoon." I'm sure he meant good morning. Any advice for a new generation and future leaders of our nation now, especially now during this pandemic, for example? Many new batch of graduates don't have the chance to apply for work, and this could have a bad effect in their mental health, like feeling can't do anything, like feeling useless maybe here. Yes, our dear speakers, your take on that? Who wants to go first? Maybe Gary or Jonas?
Can I take that
Okay,
Jonas,
okay.
first?
Go ahead, Jonas.
I'd like to sum that into two things. One, really know the facts and understand what are the reasons why things are happening right now. COVID-19 is a complex problem, but it can be understandable. Second is actually to practice empathy. Um, because if you practice empathy, you will definitely feel good about yourself. You will definitely feel, spread the good feeling towards others. To know, to listen, and to understand uh, what's going on with the people around you uh, is like a very good hallmark of empathy. And empathic leaders are very, very effective in 2020 uh, and beyond. Because if we don't, if we just impose, if we don't take in the inputs of others, even in my field, where I'm a consultancy based guy, but uh, I have to listen to the people around me for me to understand how I could help them. Um, and that's the best way to work through the challenges right now that is 2020. And I hope that you could do the same.
Thank you, Jonas. Empathy leader, that's awesome. Next, Gary.
So I agree with what Jonah has said. And to add on, I think what I covered previously about moving forward in this COVID-19 period is to actually reinvent yourself and look at the gaps in during this time. So even during a pandemic where jobs are lost and stuff like that, you actually see that some businesses are thriving. And there is a reason for it because they are able to address the gaps that are left by COVID-19. And at this juncture, you'll be saying that, oh, actually those jobs might be in the tech firm, might be a software development, and I'm studying perhaps maybe some arts related, for example, literature or history. So it might not be exactly applicable, but what can we bring to the table? So those are the questions that you have to ask yourself in your own host nations. So for example, in Singapore, the government actually came out with a traineeship program for those that are not in the industry itself. So they're actually open to having art student going into, let's say, a traineeship position in the banks. So it's completely different level, but the company will guide you along and maybe evaluate whether you are fit to join banking after that traineeship. So do the same thing in your own country. So before you graduate, try out internships as far as possible, go into different areas, even different from your own subject that you study.
Thank you. And I just got notification from the committee telling me that we're running out of time. It seems interesting that our topic today and all the things that you guys have brought on table to discuss and to share with us here in ASEAN Week. So I think if you guys have any questions, dear friends, just feel free to text straight to the committee, and I'm sure the committee will help you to pass the questions on to our speakers today. So once again, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen who are joining this ASEAN Week this morning, let's give a big round of virtual applause to our speakers. We've got Mo from Myanmar, Gary from Singapore, Jonas from the Philippines, and Farhan from Indonesia. Very interesting people, very nice, awesome, and very inspiring. And I hope that everything that they have shared with us will help us to be better. After this, we can start from our daily lives, and then we become better in our society, for our country, and for global community. So that's all. Myself also, I mean myself also, I would like to thank you, the committee, and everyone who's been joining us. And that's it. I think I'm sorry if there's any inconvenience that I have made during this moderating session. Thank you. Anyone from the committee wants to
Thank you
continue?
for the moderator, Pak Herto, and the speakers from ASEAN Youth Organization. Before we move on to the next session, we'll take a picture together. Untuk Pak Herto, speakers, dan seluruh partisipan dimohon untuk membuka kameranya masing-masing sebagai dokumentasi panitia ASEAN Week 2020.
Should we smile?
Now let us take a picture together. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Sekedar mengingatkan bahwa di akhir acara nanti panitia menyediakan beberapa door prize berupa cashless total jutaan rupiah dengan cara aktif dan bertanya selama sesi talk dan sesi presentasi. Maka itu peserta diharapkan mengisi presensi melalui link yang akan dikirimkan oleh pihak panitia. For the next session, we will present you the first speaker, Bapak Tatang Iskarna from Universitas Sanata Dharma. This session will be moderated by Dr. Rer Paul Iyet Veda Sitepu SSMA. Ma'am Iyet, the floor is yours.
Sorry. Thank you, Jonas. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Farhan. Okay. Can you put down the screen first? Yes. Okay. Do we have Pak Tatang here? Pak Tatang, can we?
Yes.
Can you open the cam so that we can see?
Okay.
All right.
I have-
Welcome. So Ibu Iyet is supposed to be the moderator. She is supposed to moderate you in your talk. However, she is now experiencing difficulty in accessing the link. Okay. Can we so we are now coordinating. Sebentar ya Pak ya. Okay. Mungkin sebentar ada video sedikit yang mungkin bisa dipasang while waiting. Panitia, thank you. Ibu ya, one for video. Thank you. Okay. Um, we have Ibu Iyat here. Ibu Iyat, you can take over for the presentation, for the moderating. Panitia di take out aja itu. Ibu Iyat will start right away. Thank you. Hello. Bentar ya, Pak.
Good morning, Pak Tatang Iskarna.
Morning.
How glad I am to see you. I'm very sorry about my outfit today because I'm really outside my house, so I have to be equipped with this accessories. Yeah. so so thank you so much for being with us today. So ladies and gentlemen, mahasiswa semua, ini adalah Bapak Tatang Iskarna, Dr. Tatang Iskarna from Sanata Dharma University di Yogyakarta. So Pak Tatang will talk today about literature and identity. So before we start, let me read Pak Tatang's CV for us. So Dr. Tatang Iskarna is a lecturer at the Faculty of Letters, Sanata Dharma University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. His doctorate degree in literature was obtained from Gajah Mada University, also in Yogyakarta, and gained his master's degree from the University of Indonesia. His interest, among other, is the marginal group of people represented in literature. Migrants in the West, Aborigine in Australia, the colonized in Africa, the disability, and the certain ethnic or social groups in Indonesia. So without further ado, I would like to ask Pak Tatang to please start his presentation. Silakan Bapak, the floor is yours. You have, I'm not sure, 30 minutes to present?
Yeah.
But I,
How many?
as a friend,
How many
as a friend,
minutes?
I will,
The talk
sorry?
is 90.
So don't worry, Pak Tatang, as a friend, I will give you more minutes if you ask me. Thank you so much.
30
Yeah.
minutes? How many minutes?
I guess around 30.
Okay, all right. Okay, first of all, I'd like to say hello to the students of UKI and thank you very much for Bu Susan. Thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting and thank you, Bu It. We'll see you again. My general topic is literature and identity, but I'd like to focus on the diasporic experience, yeah, of a migrant worker, especially women migrant worker. Okay, can I share my PowerPoint right now?
Okay. You are a co-host, Bapak bisa you can
Right,
share.
okay.
Try.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. My big topic is literature and identity, but I'd like to focus on a diasporic experience, yeah, of an Indonesian migrant housemaid in Saudi Arabia, presented in a poem of Minah Dipancung, written by Denny G.A. My subtitle is "Living Here, Remember There." Yeah, that's what usually people of diaspora experience. Yeah, they live in abroad, but they still remember, they still apply their customs, their perspective, and so on. Yeah. All right. Okay. First of all, I'd like to give you a kind of a perspective on the migrations as a solutions of what we call unemployment or low wage in our country. So migrations or the movement of people from one country to others, yeah, is mostly taken as solutions to survive, fulfilling basic needs, make a better living, since the early civilizations. And in the after industrial revolutions, people improve lives as agriculture decreases and new job vacancies in the homeland. And then becoming migrant workers as one of the Indonesians' ways to increase the standard of living. So what is the ancient experience here actually is also has been experienced by Indonesian people, especially women migrant workers. You know that since 1980s, millions of Indonesians migrant workers sent to Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, maybe China. Yeah. And then we have about in 2015, 3.8 million, yeah, and 1.3 million working in the Middle East. And they work in various field of occupations, driver, caretaker, gardener, babysitter, housemaid, and spa therapist, according to the data. And of course, the problems emerge concerning with the diasporic life there, because they lack of law protections or advocacy in the receiving country, and then malpractice toward the migrants. And then the malpractice can be in the form of exploitations, abuse from the employer, sexual harassment, stigmatizing, stereotyping, and discriminations. That's the diasporic problems of the identity of migrant workers. And then the problem of women migrant workers becomes the concern for some public policy makers and laborers, women advocacy researchers, and some literary writers, of course. One of them is Danny G.A. He is a social researcher and also poet who has expressed his feeling of empathy to Indonesian women. And this empathy deserves to go to these migrant workers, especially housemaids, as they have been the victim of injustice, exploitations, discrimination, and abuse. And it was expressed through his essay poem entitled Minah Tetap Dipancung. Minah is the name of a housemaid who works in Saudi Arabia. The poem is very long because this is essay poem, but I'd like to highlight the important part here. This poem actually is part of the anthology Atas Nama Cinta, sebuah puisi essay, and it is perceived as the mobility of Indonesian women migrant to Saudi Arabia because of some various problem in her homeland. And of course, the purpose is to change her destiny, and who realizes also that her disillusionment about the destination country. So working abroad actually is not as easy as she imagined. What is essay poem here? I give you a very short view here. Poem which is written based on certain facts, expressed in such a communicative language which is easy to understand, distinguishing itself from lyrical poem, often written based on the imagination, using symbols, metaphors, or sometimes difficult to understand. But it derives from factual events, although it is still fictional. And actual facts only used as the background frame for the writer to build his or her narrations. In this easy poem, the writer doing deep and serious research on the topic, he uses data statistic reference to positions the problem discussed. And it is also provided with footnotes to confirm that the topic is the concrete social phenomenon. Right. So what we are going to expose here is highlighting the diasporic problems faced by the women migrant workers, starting from the sending countries in Indonesia and in the receiving country in Saudi Arabia, describing how Mina, as a housemaid, struggles against his diasporic problems, and then depicting how the narrator presents the essay poem to rethink of the concept of the housemaid identity as diasporic context. So this poem presents problems that usually faced by Indonesian women, migrant workers, and then how they struggle to cope with it. And one more thing is that actually there is a good idea of the narrator to what is this? To urge people to rethink of the concept of the identity of what we call housemaid. Right. Okay. I'm going to go fast. Yeah. Concept of housemaid comparisons in Indonesia. Yeah. Have the Indonesia has a different interpretations from Saudi Arabia's perspective about housemaids. In Indonesia, the origin of the housemaid has a root of colonial feudalism. They are workers with special domestic skill to help the domestic work and is paid for the work. And Samare and Java, it derives from the village. They derive from the village and come to other area, especially town and suburb environment, to do domestic work. And also we can check the relations. It can be subordination, but in some other way, they can be treated as assistant who help the household affairs. In Saudi Arabia, King Faisal abolished slavery in 1962 by a royal decree. However, in this country, there is no labor law to provide protections for workers because the culture of servitude or slavery became the national structure. A housemaid in Saudi Arabia can be the representations of slave subculture in the modern times, supported by a religious principle that men usually own and rights over what they possess. And then now we are going to see some theories of migrations and diaspora. Yeah, migrations is caused by generally is less wages in the homeland, lack of job opportunity, low social access. Yeah, and then they go to the foreign countries because they have a competitive salary. Yeah, and then also in order that they can access the modern market. Yeah, and then from the perspective of the economy, they migrate to find the economic lack because of the gap salary between their own country and the destinations. That's the problem of migrations. And then also the problem is the high demand on workers, employee recruitment and institution which manage to fulfill the structure of economic and the imbalance of economic and political power distributions. And that's why Castle and Miller's suggested that actually this kind of phenomenon will develop in such rapid and fast way, and it becomes a global network. Most people are able to do it very easily. And international migration is rational decisions to solve the problems of unemployment and sending countries to fulfill the demands of migrant workers. And then they will receive the remittance while the receiving countries get the low wage workers. And that's what happens in this global world. And yeah, in some senses, diaspora can be traumatic and brutal experience. For example, like for Jewish people or Africans who experience collective trauma. Yeah, this is examples. Yeah, banished from their homeland and live in exile. And the context, diaspora can be different response to territorial boundaries as the identification of the context of deterritorialization, transnationalism. In this context, people construct home away from home. So this is not a simple matters, but actually this is complicated because it concerns with identity, it concerns with far away from home living, far away from home, applying the customs and their own culture and so on. And then diaspora experience, according to Gohan, people usually keep possession of memory and vision of their homeland. That's what happened. And then people experience traumatic experience in the new regions. They cannot fully accepted by the inhabitants of the new environments, and the new region, which is considered as fantasy, fulfilling the migrant dreams to transfer identity and fortune, is actually also a place for banishment, discrimination, exploitation, oppression, and social disgrace. That's what happened in this poem actually also. And then yeah, comfortable living in the new land is such a disillusionment actually. People imagine what they will receive and they will experience, and then they find it's very different from their imagination. So people's self-identity is destroyed slowly by dislocations in a new place. And also they experience dynamic tensions between living in a homeland and also living abroad and living in their homeland. Problems of Mina, yeah, Mina, the Indonesian housemaid discussed in this poetry is the same as in the theories. Yeah, economic factors. Yeah, her husband is unemployed, and the daughter needs tuition fees. Yeah, and marriage as social obligation, not well prepared financially or socially. That's the common problem of Indonesian women. And then also financial exploitations by the migrant workers agency, and then also corruptions and exploitations in the way the workers are placed. And then also the problem also comes from the other migrant workers who have stayed in Saudi Arabia for a long time. They do not pick up her at the airport or welcome her coming. Yeah. So actually they become strangers to each other. And also entering into new area is also a problem. No one to talk, to share with. Yeah. The sense of Indonesian identity amongst the workers is only disillusioned when the cooperation is very little. Yeah. And she's doubted to step into the house where she will work. Yeah. Lonely, quiet, yeah. A cold welcoming, far away from home, feels lonely, doubted to continue her missions. That's what happened in the poem. And then also cultural problems begins to place Mina in difficult situation when she practices what her religious teacher in her hometown. For example, like smiling and being friendly to men. In Indonesian culture, I think it's common, yeah. But in Saudi Arabia, actually, it's not usual for women to smile at men. Her religious leader teaches her to be polite and how to speak and behave. That's why Mina always smiles to show her politeness and good behavior. However, her attitude is misinterpreted. He thought that Mina tries to flirt or seduce him. That's the problem, cross-cultural problem. Mina also has a little understanding on cross-cultural difference. He assumes that Indonesian and Arabian culture is the same. He thinks that Islam teaches the same good behavior, that is smiling and be alms. Bisa jadi amal. And it is written in a poem. Yeah. The lack of cross-cultural understanding makes Mina experience troubles, especially sexual harassment. And also the other problem is she starts to feel like longing for her homeland and family, yeah, dislocated, yeah, missing her son, her daughter's husbands, and finally she regrets that she has to leave the family. And besides those cultural problem, she also encounter financial problems. Yeah, not receiving the salary, maybe not in accordance with the contract, and then also alienated from the society because of the language, and also this is the common phenomenon, so sexual abusement done by the employers. The reason behind the rape is not her friendly or polite behavior. No, but because of the different perceptions of the concept of the housemaid. Housemaid becomes the property of the employer. He can do anything to what he possesses. Male dominations becomes the factor of the rape of this worker. And then her body becomes the object of sexual desire. And then her traumatic event happens actually because of the different perceptions of the concept of the identity of housemaid, either culturally and religiously. And then also, her employer assumes that what he has done is not against the religious rules, of course. Yeah. The perception of ideology has something to do with the justification of the male domination and also the concept of the housemaid as the property of the employer, just like a subculture's slave. Mina feels that she has lost her dignity and refuses to be treated as a slave. And then experience religious crisis because Mina has been taught that God promised to protect her from disaster. He has a belief that God protects the oppressed, the weak, and the dominated. But the fact is that she protested God because he has done all the good teaching, but why is he still experiencing misfortunes? Complain about the husband is done to her, again protections. His mistress misunderstand that all what happens to her is caused by her open behavior. It is stated by the woman, the Arabian woman. And then the main problem is that lack of protections on the migrant workers, especially in law. She cannot bear being raped, so she tries to fight against the employer and finally kills him with a knife. And then she cope with these problems, struggles, fight against sexual harassment. Also, she never takes the money the employer paid for the rape, of course. This is the resistance for her dignity. And then in legal areas, is alone has to face the court. What in Saudi Arabia calls a murder. For Mina, it is kind of defending her dignity. So this is different perceptions. Now, what is the essence of the poem actually? What is the right? I'm trying to explore the valuable idea. And that's what I call rethinking the concept of the housemaid. Mina dreams about the success of working as a migrant housemaid. However, she is not aware of the cross-cultural understanding, so that her behavior is often mistreated. She does not realize that being migrant worker as a housemaid is perceived in various ways. It's different from what she imagines in her own country, Indonesia especially. And then in Saudi Arabia culture, the concept of housemaid is somewhat different from what Mina imagines as it is in Indonesia. Some of the Arabian people, a housemaid is still considered to be slave in certain subculture, not all, but in certain subculture, can be treated as a property of her employer, whom he can possess and treat in many ways. And this poem also encourages readers to think about the culture difference, urge them to propose thoughtful solutions for this complicated problem faced by Mina. And the writer also proposes is thoughtful reflection through the notes that he puts under the poem as the explanation of the story, as well as what the migrant work should do and be treated. First of all, Mina never knows that in modern day, a housemaid can be treated as a slave who can be abused sexually. She never imagines that this happens to her. Why? Because of the lack of cross-cultural understanding. And Mina is also not well informed that all migrant workers behave properly. Some of them become prostitutes. Some of them maybe deal with police officers because of breaking the laws. Mina never realizes that some of the housemaids are not able to work properly, so they are not highly estimated. maybe they are not skillful. So this brings about stereotyping that Indonesian people are not skillful. And Mina doesn't understand that when she defends herself by stabbing her employer, she has to be sentenced to death. An eye for eye, a teeth for teeth principle never crosses her mind. And then she does not perceive that migrant worker placement in foreign countries, especially in Saudi Arabia, becomes the arena of illegal business, corruption, bribery, and actually such jobs are treated as industry that cannot be stopped and brings about financial advantage. High demands of migrant workers and the low condition of employment and job opportunity will persist in this kind of business. Yeah, and then there should be improvement for such situations. Yeah. Should be treated a worker protected by law. Workers must be skillful. She must understand the cross-cultural knowledge of the foreign country so that her behavior cannot be misinterpreted. Yeah. She is not property, but she cannot be treated as possession of the employer. For the business management, a housemate cannot be treated as source of income and only a business matter. That's the point that the narrator, the writer says. He's a human being who strives to make fortunes and takes every risk in new regions. Yeah. That's why she must be respected and treated professionally. So I can conclude like this. This poem discloses some problems around the migrant workers. Yeah. She has to bear the low social conditions of unemployment in her homeland. That's the problems in Indonesia. She has to face the corrupting agency. She is stigmatized as a lower class. That's the identity. An educated, unskilled person. Yeah. She can be treated as a property by the employer so that she can be sexually abused, gender stereotype to serve the sexual desire of her employer, isolated, alienated because of the language and cultural barriers, and then also lack of legal protections. That's the point. And then some ideas explore from the poem that diasporic experience becomes traumatic for migrant housemaid as is dislocated and displaced in a new environment where culturally she is not accepted and treated differently because of the stigmatized identity. Being migrant workers across the borders should be an access to better living, not as dramatic experience. This can be reached through the rethinking and redefining what a housemaid is, not property to be abused, but professional domestic assistant protected by law with certain regular wages. Yeah, I think it's enough for me uh, about how diasporic experience rise of problems of whether this is culture, yeah, customs, and also crimes. Thank you very much. Time is given to each it.
Thank you, Pak Tatang, for a very interesting presentation. Actually, you still have around 20 more minutes to for your presentation. I'm very sorry. I forgot to check with the committee about your presentation time. So if you would like to add more to that, especially I'm really interested in the title itself, Pak Tatang. I think you could explore more on the title because it is very apa ya give you more to think about I mean the title. Okay, Pak Tatang, 20 more minutes ya.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to maybe I'm going to expose the poems. Yeah, I like to expose the poems. Yeah, for the last 20 minutes. Okay, this is written in Indonesian. Can you see my sharing?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, all right.
Very clear, Pak.
Yeah, very clear. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm going to highlight a certain lines here. Yeah, this is the final result of Mina destiny. Yeah, a sentence to death, and this is the reasons of why Mina has to go to Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And then this is the corruptions, bribery, yeah, done by the agency in the third part, two parts. And then also, this is how she works. Yeah. Okay. And then, right. Now, this is very important especially the cross-cultural understanding. Guru ngajiku di pesantren dulu mengajarkan agar aku bersikap sopan. Tahu tata cara bertutur kata, aku suka tersenyum. Tapi celaka majikan pria keliru mengartikannya. Dikiranya aku penggoda. Mana mungkin aku berani dan lagi suamiku lebih ganteng darinya. Aku tidak paham budaya, terus terang saja bagiku orang Arab dan Indonesia sama saja. Kan sama-sama Islam agamanya. Saya tidak berbicara agama sebenarnya, ini yang diekspresikan ya. Dan menurut guru ngajiku senyum sama dengan sedekah nilainya. Nah, ketika majikan perempuan tidur lelap, majikan pria mendekatiku dan sebagainya. This is very important points ya. What she imagines ya actually is different from what happens in exiles ya in diasporic country. In Saudi Arabia. So that's the problems. Yeah. This is kind of disillusionment. Yeah. What she imagines is different from what really happens there. So that's why cross-cultural understanding here needs to be upgraded. Yeah. And then the other important things is yeah. Yeah, this is the struggles. Yeah, how she resists. What is it? How she resists. How she struggles against the violence. Yeah. Aku berontak, ku terjang ia, tapi ia perkasa menarik sarungku dengan paksa. Ia tampaknya sudah gelap mata, aku berteriak-teriak sekuatnya, ku dorong tubuhnya sampai membentur dinding. Tetapi lelaki itu kembali mendekat, menyebut beberapa patah kata bahasa Arab yang tak kupahami artinya. Begitu sikap tindakannya seakan apa yang hendak dilakukannya tidak menyalahi aturan agama. So this is against a different perspective actually. This is not about crime sometimes, but it is about how we see to each other, yeah? How we perceive things from different perspective. Aku terkesima, tercampak, terhina, aku ludahi mukanya, aku bukan budak, aku bekerja di sini tidak untuk diperkosa. Ya tak paham bahasa Indonesia dan aku juga tak bisa mengatakan apapun dalam bahasanya. Ya terus mendekat, kembali berteriak, aku mengancamnya, tapi semua itu lenyap begitu saja, dan sebagainya. Aku melawan kehabisan nafas, tapi ada kata melawan, ya, si resist, ya. Sampai tenaga aku habis terkuras tak berdaya. What is it? Keep her dignity. Ya. Usai menunaikan nafsu bejanya, ya lemparkan beberapa helai uang real, aku tak punya lagi tenaga, sekali terjadi terulang 2 kali, 3 kali, berkali-kali. Nah, but he never received the money the employer throw to him. Yeah. For example, like dan uang dikutai pun aku sobek satu demi satu sambil menangis dalam-dalam tertahan. Kubayangkan diriku sudah jadi gila. Yeah. This is the form of resistance also. Besides physically and then conceptually and also economically. And then the other problem is what we call law enforcement, ya. Aku mencari jalan mengadu kepada majikan perempuan, berharap mendapatkan perlindungan, namun bukan pembelaan yang kudapat, malah penyiksaan berlipat-lipat. Ya. She tells about what she experienced to the wife of the employer. Yeah. But what happens? She is accused of flirting her husband. That's the cross-culture disturbance also. And then what else? Nah, in a court ya harus kuhadapi pengadilan tanpa perlindungan, hukum yang berlaku di negara Arab, nyawa berbayar nyawa. Eye for eye, teeth for teeth. Yeah, this is governments. Yeah, what Indonesian government do, lawyers. Yeah, but it's too late. Yeah. Okay, and then another important lines is right. Yeah. The last prayer. Dalam zikirku malam terakhirku terbayang suamiku datang ke kamarku dan dibisikannya, Aminah, betapa bangga aku padamu, kau berjuang untuk keluarga, membela kehormatan diri, guru ngaji di pesantren tak akan menyalahkanmu, meski besok dipancung, kau tetap hidup di hatiku dan di hati Aisyah, anak kita. So this is the way Aminah faced the problems. Yeah, she realized that she lack of the understanding of cross-culture perspective, but she fight against something which touches her dignity. For example, like in sexual harassment, yeah, and then also treated as a prostitute. So he resists by throwing away the money. He never received the money. So this is the poem. I think this is very important for me or for us. The matter is not the religions. Yeah, the matter is not about the social class of what we call housemaid, but I think the important thing is here is how we understand each other. Yeah, how we understand other people's culture, other people's perspective. Yeah. So identity is not a matter of who we are, what we are from, not about who is the higher class, who is the lower class, but how we understand each other and see the cultural background of that. This poem, I think, teaches us to be more alert about how when we live abroad, when we have diasporic experience, I think what we have to do is we have to be what we call well equipped, well trained. We have to be open our perspective on other cultures, so that we can live together in a good way. Okay, I think this is the additional statement, Bu Sitapu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Tatang, for the presentation. So I'm not going to sum up what you have just presented, but would let the audience ask you questions. But indeed, I find some interesting points in your presentation because you are talking about Indonesian housemaid in Saudi Arabia, presented by Minah, Minah tetap dipancung. I haven't read this one, so that's why I found it very, very interesting, Bapak. Thank you so much. So the migrant worker actually is a problem, in ASEAN countries, especially the developing ones, and whether or not it gives money to the country, it actually creates problem, yeah, the problem that every migrant workers never thought before, yeah, and they were just tertarik saja untuk bekerja di Arab Saudi yang katanya berlimpah madu, emas dan
Yeah.
lain-lain.
The main problem is the economic problem in the homeland.
Exactly, Bapak, exactly. But they don't know, along with all those luxuries, they also have a pile of problems there. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you like to ask questions kepada Bapak Tatang Iskarna? You can ask question in Bahasa Indonesia or in Bahasa Inggris. Whichever Pak Tatang will understand. Yes, please. Di sini ada satu chat. Oh, Bapak, you have a question here.
Oh yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Franklin Mandela from Christian University of Indonesia. I would like to ask why Mina Tetap di Pancung can be categorized the identity of migration international literature. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. This is about the types of literatures. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. This is very interesting questions. Yeah. And the problem is actually who has power to determine which one is literature of migrations or literature of diaspora or literature of what is it like violence against women, literature of what we call stereotyping and so on. Yeah. So we can see from the perspective of feminism, of diaspora, and from post-colonialism and so on. Yeah. Okay. I think it can be categorized as international literature on migrations. Why? Yeah, because the theme is transnationalism. Yeah, how women, migrants, workers of Indonesian went to Saudi Arabia, and she has problems with what we call diasporic problems. Yeah, disillusionment about what she imagines, which is different from what really is. Yeah. And it can be also categorized as a literature of how we what we call identity, of course. Yeah, different perspective on how we see migrant workers or housemaid. That's why in my analysis here, I propose what we call rethinking of the concept of housemaid. Internationally, it should be what is discussed in the proper perspective. Yeah. In some country, it can be a worker which is who are to be paid to do the domestic work. In other culture, it can be a property. So internationally, it should be arranged. Yeah, and we have what we call law protections against this kind of definition. Okay, thank you.
Yes, any other question?
Ada.
Silakan, silakan yang ingin bertanya. Ini sangat menarik ya, adik-adik semua.
Ini sudah ada di chat. Saya baca saja, langsung saya jawab, Ibu.
Oh ya, ini baru masuk ini. Halo Pak.
Saya baca.
Saya mau bertanya, apakah Bapak setuju seni adalah kebebasan dan apakah sebuah penulisan seseorang bisa kita nilai? Jika ya, dari sisi mana kita menilainya? Terima kasih Pak. Dari Santo Simamora.
Right. Ini sebentar, saya di atasnya itu ada satu pertanyaan lagi. Nanti akan saya jawab secara urut ya. My name is Nesa. Halo Nesa, good morning. from Christian University of Indonesia. Maaf pakai bahasa Indonesia, it's okay. Mau bertanya kenapa puisi ini tidak terkenal dan kenapa banyak orang WNI mau bekerja sebagai TKI, sedangkan sudah banyak kejadian hukuman pancung yang tidak adil. Nah, kenapa puisi ini tidak terkenal ya? Makanya saya memperkenalkan. Dan anak Fakultas Sastra harus banyak membahas sastra ya. Harus istilahnya disosialisasikan. Ya. Sastra adalah kehidupan, sastra adalah pengalaman manusia, sastra adalah apa yang dialami diharapkan. Nah, memang bagi sebagian orang tidak mengenal, tapi bagi sebagian orang yang concern terhadap violence terhadap wanita, violence atau dominations terhadap orang-orang kelas bawah, pasti akan mengenal puisi ini, ya. Pasti akan mengangkat puisi ini. Kemudian mengapa masih banyak orang WNI bekerja sebagai TKI, sedangkan sudah ada banyak kejadian? Ya, faktor tadi secara teori migrations itu terkait dengan gap ekonomi. Ya. Jadi orang bisa take the risk of his life. Orang bisa mengambil risiko hidupnya karena masalah ekonomi. Itu adalah hukum alam yang umum. Sehingga kadang-kadang hal-hal seperti ini tidak diperhatikan. Termasuk pelecehan, pemalakan, kemudian juga kekerasan. Dan faktor ekonomi ini tidak bisa menjadi bukan faktor yang mudah untuk dihilangkan. Yang kedua, gap gaji, ya mungkin selisih gaji antara Indonesia dan luar negeri itu besar ya gapnya. Jadi itu yang diceritakan di puisi itu. Jadi memang ekonomi adalah satu-satunya dorongan yang paling berat, paling powerful karena we have to survive, ya tadi ya survival itu apapun dilakukan. Oke, itu untuk Nesa. Kemudian halo Pak, saya bertanya apakah Bapak setuju seni adalah kebebasan dan apakah sebuah penulisan seseorang bisa kita nilai? Jika iya, dari sisi mana kita bisa menilainya? Terima kasih. Oke. This is very common questions ya. Seni kebebasan ya. Sastra itu memang jujur ya, menggambarkan apa yang dirasakan, diharapkan, ya. Apa yang kita lihat, kita narasikan kembali dengan gaya bahasa sastra. Nah, apakah sebuah penulisan seorang bisa kita nilai? Ya, kalau kita menggunakan perspektif perangkat sastra bisa, ya. Menilai drama, menilai puisi, menilai short stories itu bisa. Itulah yang kita pelajari sebagai akademisi sastra di fakultas kita. Ya. Bisa saja dari manapun. Jadi sastra itu bisa dinilai, bisa dikritik, bisa dipandang dari posisi apapun. Aminah Dipancung itu dari segi feminis bisa, sangat bisa sekali. Dari segi diaspora sangat bisa sekali. Dari sisi cross cultural understanding juga sangat bisa. Jadi tergantung background kita masing-masing. Mungkin dari sisi ekonom itu juga bisa ya. Kenapa survival untuk ekonomi itu melahirkan hal-hal yang sangat buruk bagi warga negara Indonesia. Oke. Kemudian ini dari Niputu ya. Bisakah nanti di-share puisinya Pak Tatang? Oh bisa. Materinya bisa. Oke. Kemudian langsung saya tanggapi ya Bu Wit.
Silakan Pak, whichever makes you happy.
Good morning, Sir Tatang. My name is Esther Melani from UKI. I would like to ask about immigrant. It's related from the topic today. What do you think about person who really want to go overseas as I'm immigrant because they compare the money from Indonesia with overseas without think the reality? Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think living in abroad is interesting experience. Yeah, although I've never lived there, I only, for example, like a ticket trip and spending, for example, like 3 to 5 days abroad. Yeah. But I have very interesting experience ya, sangat-sangat luar biasa pengalamannya. Nah, bagi orang yang dengan alasan tertentu pindah menjadi warga negara asing atau bekerja di negara lain, saya kira zaman sekarang bukan hal-hal yang istilahnya bukan berarti kita menilai negatif ya. Jadi itu bisa saja alasan ekonomi, alasan karir. Banyak orang Indonesia jadi dosen, jadi bekerja di luar negeri karena ingin mengembangkan juga. Jadi masalah identitas bukan masalah, sebenarnya sudah bukan masalah di mana kita tinggal ya, tapi bagaimana kita meyakini customs, nilai, values yang ada pada kita yang baik, yang kita bisa kerjasama dengan people from other cultures to make a better living, saya kira itu. Jadi tidak persoalan, kalaupun itu faktornya uang, tidak masalah. Ya, oke. Ya, saya kira sudah cukup itu pertanyaannya, Bu It's itu Bu.
Ya,
Nanti akan saya materi dan puisinya akan saya share di WA-nya siapa ya? Di WA-nya Alfa atau siapa itu?
Ya, bisa nanti Pak, lewat komite ya Pak ya, atau lewat Ibu Tan juga bisa nanti.
Alright, ini ada lagi Vinakat Molana. Good morning, sir. Thanks for explanation. I do interested with the topic today. Probably my question is out of the context, and this is correlated with your major of studies. Why the indigenous people of Aborigine Indian more alienated on their own work? Nah, ini saya dulu pernah melakukan beberapa penelitian dan menulis beberapa artikel tentang Aborigine. Ya, proses kolonialisme adalah salah satu hal yang penting yang saya kira dapat menjadikan perbenturan, tarik-menarik, tegangan antara budaya native Australia, Native America Indians dengan orang-orang pendatang, ya, new settlers. Ya. Bahkan karena kekuatan pendatang itu lebih besar, orang-orang native itu sering tersingkir, ya, termasuk dari sisi populasi, jumlah, maupun dari sisi budaya. Bagaimana orang aborigin itu menganggap alam, menganggap tanah itu menyatu dengan manusia, sehingga dia punya acara, punya ritual itu selalu memakai korabura rings itu ya. Kemudian tinggal di Bulabong dan ada pohon di sana. Nah, bagi kolonial, bagi kaum pendatang itu karena tanah adalah dilihat dari sisi ekonomi. Bisa jadikan kompleks perumahan, kompleks industri. Tapi bagi orang aborigin, tanah adalah istilahnya hal yang suci, hal yang sacred, di mana upacara relasi terhadap nenek moyang mereka itu terjadi di situ. Sama persis juga India, sehingga mereka sekarang justru merasa teraliniasi di negeri sendiri karena tanah-tanah itu dicaplok untuk kepentingan industri, kepentingan perumahan, kemajuan dan sebagainya. Nah, jadi itu yang yang terjadi. Juga selain kolonialisme, proyek ekonomi juga penyebaran agama, saya kira juga menjadi salah satu faktor ya. Terutama Christianity ya, itu bisa mengikis traditional belief, traditional religion di Afrika, juga termasuk di Aborigin dan Indian. Oke. Terus kemudian dari Louis, good morning Pak Tatang, my name is Freddy Louis de Cesar from University. I have questions. For example, if a reader interprets our poetry according to his states of perceptions, can the message we mean actually be conveyed? Ya, bisa saja. Jadi selain perspektif akademik yang kita pelajari, misalnya dari sisi kita melihat puisi dari sisi feminis, kita melihat puisi dari postkolonial, kita melihat puisi dari sisi psikologi, psikoanalisis, bisa. Atau bisa saja kita harus berani berdasarkan pengalaman kita. Tidak apa-apa, tidak masalah. According to our own taste or perceptions, tidak masalah. Bisa saja itu bagi puisi Aminah di Pancung itu bagi agensi-agensi apa namanya ketenagaan calo-calo TKI itu akan menjadi sesuatu yang tidak baik atau mungkin perspektifnya lain. Jadi ekonomi lebih ditekankan. Bagi orang Arab mungkin perspektifnya juga lain. Jadi tidak masalah, kita berani saja melakukan analisis. Oke, demikian Freddy, Louis, thank you.
Kita lihat ada yang angkat tangan tadi, siapa? Nadia or Nidia? Coba.
Oh ya,
silakan
okay.
Langsung. Atau salah angkat tangan?
Salah pencet.
Salah pencet kayaknya. Ini menarik ya, ternyata Pak Tatang tadi sampaikan bahwa untuk menganalisis puisi Minah Tetap di Pancung ini dari berbagai sudut ya, dan sangat menarik. Dan ini mungkin bisa membantu apa namanya mahasiswa Fakultas Sastra ya untuk memperluas lah analisisnya nanti kalau misalnya untuk skripsi atau tugas-tugas lainnya. Dan kalau tadi ini ada yang lucu tadi saya dengar yang bertanya nih, kenapa puisinya bagus begini nggak terkenal ya? Atau menunggu dulu dari Pak Tatang mempresentasikan baru puisi ini kelihatan keindahannya. Jadi Pak Denny JA ini harus berterima kasih pada Pak Tatang, minimal ada 147 orang sekarang yang sudah mengetahui itu puisi bagus dan akan membacanya. Mungkin kita perlu mengeksplor kali ya, jadi mahasiswa Fakultas Sastra itu untuk berani membaca karya-karya Indonesia juga ya, untuk kemudian appreciate that, not only apa namanya suggested by others, but we need to explore ourselves. Pak Tatang, we can while waiting for other question, perhaps I can also ask a question, Bapak.
Okay.
So I think this poem portrays complexity of life, yeah.
Right.
So it's like a tragic solution to a poverty that we are facing in Indonesia. Sometimes being poor gives you no other option in life. So do you have any other comparison, Bapak, about literary works from other countries that also portray migrant workers?
Yeah, I think in the Department of English, Faculty of Letters, in our faculty, we usually discuss other what is it? A very interesting and very popular short story entitled "My Son the Fanatic." My Son the Fanatic. Kurais ya, baik. Kurais. My Son the Fanatic. This is telling story about the life of a migrant of Pakistani parents who lives with his sons in England. The interesting thing is that the father adopts his life to the Western culture, but his son still keeps the Muslims cultures, and there is a conflict there, and this is the problem that we have in our life for those who migrate to another country. And the problem is we as Asian people, and then we live in abroad, how do we behave actually? Do we have to keep our own culture and we do not 100% adjust to new environments? Or we leave behind all our cultures and adapt to 100% to what is it? What we call new environment. So that's the problem actually. Some Chinese in the United States, yeah, Indonesia in Arab, Indonesia in Australia, and so on. Yeah. That's the main problem actually. Now, for me, as identity is not about our skin or the color of our hairs, yeah, and then the color of our eyes, yeah, and then how tall we are. It's not about that. Yeah. It's not about the social class, but actually is how we can adjust to a new environment and then we contribute to a better living there. Yeah. So in no matter where we comes from. So I remember the president, the 14th president of the United States of America, Ronald Reagan. Yeah. In his last speech of his presidency, he delivered a speech like this: "You can go to live in France, but you cannot become Frenchman. You can go to live in Japan, but you cannot become Japanese. You can go to live in Turkey or Germany, but you cannot become Turk or German. But you can go to live in America and you can become an American." Yeah, this is very interesting. Yeah, so identity actually is not about the origin of where our culture from, yeah, but actually it's kind of a dynamic process of how we becoming, yeah, and then we can adjust to each other to build a better society. I think this is from Ibu. It's the book.
Thank you, Dr. Tatang. With us here present Bapak Anton Sutandio from Maranatha Christian University in Bandung. Pak Anton, welcome to this session. I'm sure Pak Tatan is very happy to have you around here. Would you like to show yourself, Pak Anton?
Yes.
Yeah, Pak Anton, would you like to ask question or perhaps at least greet Pak Tatang?
Halo Pak Anton.
Salam
Pak
kenal.
Anton will be speaking on Friday.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what Pak Tatang has shared is, I mean, I'm not expert in poetry, but it really opens a lot of knowledge for me and also as well for the students, I guess. So thank you, Pak Tatang, for your share. Very interesting. I'll see you, Ibu Ayat and Ibu Susan in Friday.
Ya, thank you Pak
Thank you.
Anton. Ya, kami sangat senang sekali Bapak ada di sini. Memang dengan sistem online seperti ini kita bisa mendatangkan begitu banyak kawan masuk ke dalam satu ruangan virtual, kemudian bisa membagi ilmu tanpa perlu harus terbang dengan pesawat. Betul sekali Pak. Oke.
Tidak perlu landing di Halim.
Betul. Walaupun kangen juga mungkin ya Bapak Tatang untuk landing somewhere.
Kopi Bapak.
Ya.
So ada pertanyaan lagi kah dari kita? Ini ada satu chat. Let me check. Oh bukan, ini hanya absen ditutup jam sekian. Oke. Ada lagi kah yang ingin bertanya langsung mungkin?
Kalau tidak ada, tidak usah dipaksakan.
Ya, baik. Cuma sebagai orang Indonesia yang baik, saya tetap harus menawarkan karena biasanya we save yang paling bagus itu suka kadang-kadang ketinggalan Pak di bagian belakang. Gitu. Oke, terima kasih sekali Pak Tatang atas kesempatannya membagi pengetahuan hari ini kepada kebanyakan di sini adalah mahasiswa Fakultas Sastra, tapi kita juga memiliki tamu dari berbagai tempat juga yang ingin hadir di ASEAN Week. ASEAN Week ini telah diselenggarakan selama beberapa tahun, setiap tahun kita selenggarakan, untuk lebih membumikan ASEAN di antara para mahasiswa dan diri kita sendiri. Dan presentasi Pak Tatang hari ini juga membuka wawasan kita terhadap migrant workers yang merupakan permasalahan kita bersama, tidak saja di Indonesia, tapi juga di negara ASEAN lainnya. Semoga dengan presentasi Bapak hari ini, wawasan kita tidak saja hanya terbuka untuk general knowledge, tapi juga karya-karya sastra yang bersentuhan dengan keadaan sosial di masyarakat. Demikian, terima kasih banyak Pak Tatang atas kesempatan berbicara hari ini. Mudah-mudahan Bapak tidak kapok untuk kami undang di lain hari. Terima kasih banyak. Selamat siang Pak Tatang, terima kasih banyak. Saya akan kembalikan kepada panitia. Silakan Ibu Susan atau Fakultas
panitia. Thank you Pak Tatang, thank you.
Materi sudah saya kirim di WA panitia ya. Materi sudah.
Terima kasih banyak. Ya.
Ya panitia silakan take over.
Di WA panitia.
And Bapak Tatang Iskarna.
Baik Pak ya.
Before we move on to the next session, we will take a picture together. Untuk Mem Iyet, Bapak Tatang dan seluruh partisipan dimohon untuk membuka kameranya masing-masing sebagai dokumentasi panitia ASEAN Week 2020. Now, let us take a picture together. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Kami mengucapkan selamat datang kepada Bapak Aton Sutandio dari Universitas Maranatha yang telah bergabung bersama kami di Zoom meeting ini.
Now, we will have lunch break starting at 12 p.m. until 1 p.m. Jakarta time. So everyone, see you all at 1 p.m. Have a good lunch.
Ayo Pak Tatang sini Jakarta makan.
Di Gosen saja, Gosen.
Gosen ya, GoFood aja. Oke.
Thank
you. Bye.
See you later.
Anton juga nih.
Ya, sampai
ya.
jam 1.
Oke, bye-bye.